Hi, Pockets Full of Super friends. A little note about this week's episode. Pockets Full of Soup is a storytelling show. It's not a political show, and it's not becoming a political show. However, this week's guest had a story to tell about someone she's thankful for that is intrinsically tied to her political perspectives. Indeed, it tells a lot about how she came to some of those perspectives. Because of that, we're going to be a little more political than normal this particular week. If that's not your thing, I completely understand that, and don't worry, I'm not hurt. And you can expect next week to go to a different kind of story yet again. However, I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I did. Finding out how people come to perspectives through unexpected means, and finding out that the measure of what makes us thankful can indeed be a pretty broad spectrum when you consider it. I think it's kind of fascinating, so I hope you enjoy. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Pockets Full of Soup, the storytelling show. I'm your host, Jared Petty. I'm joined tonight by a new friend, somebody I just met.
Yes, literally moments ago.
It's amazing. We're in her lovely home here and on the Grand Island of Alameda.
Indeed. Living that island life here in Alameda.
Home of the Pacific Pinball Museum.
That's true. That place is fun. It is super fun. We also have a historically excellent women's softball team.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you should have a visit at the Alameda Museum sometimes. It's pretty cool.
A historically excellent women's softball team. Like, how far does that go back?
Okay. I remember that there was a couple of cool pictures on the wall at the Alameda Museum.
By the way, who are you? We haven't introduced you yet.
I'm Andrea Grimes.
This is Andrea Grimes.
Yes.
And here together with Whiskey the Cat.
This is Whiskey the Cat.
But you are Andrea Grimes.
Yes.
Whiskey's kind of interjected himself into the show. But you're actually our guest this evening.
Indeed.
Andrea, you come to us by way of all kinds of things. You do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and all of it's quite interesting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I am mostly a journalist, I would say, an advocacy journalist or an activist journalist, I suppose. Okay. I'm not, your AP daily news writer type person.
What defines an advocacy or advocate journalist?
So I report accurately, but I do not pretend like every story has to have both sides. I don't think that there are two sides to every issue that are equally valid.
And you're transparent about that.
And I'm transparent about that.
Okay.
In actuality, I mean, I don't want to go too far down the media studies rabbit hole of does objectivity exist? But it doesn't exist. And I don't pretend like I am objective. I believe that transgender people are real humans with rights. I think that women should be able to access abortion care. I believe that racism in police departments is a real thing. So when I do writing and reporting, I do it from that perspective, and I'm open about it.
How does that fit with, you see people, the internet is a very loud place full of many different ideas. How does that idea fit in your mind with ethical reporting? How does your predisposition, your worldview, and the fact that you're still reporting on facts, how do those work together to create something that's truthful, factual, and ethical at the same time?
I think it's unfortunate, but I think in our current political climate, the idiom about facts having a liberal bias is true. I wish that weren't true. I don't think that there's any reason for something like climate change to be politically controversial, right? But it is, for the reason that approximately half of the people in this country who vote seem to think that it is a possibility that climate change is not caused by man, right? So when I think about how to approach a story, I want to be accurate. I want to be true. I'm less concerned with what most people would think of probably as fairness. I don't feel like I need to quote a climate denier. If I'm writing about climate change, I don't feel like I'm any more than if I were describing, a scene at the park with dog parks, and it was raining, I would say it was raining. I wouldn't say some people believe that it's sunny outside. It's just not that's a silly, an antiquated, I think, conceit of journalism and it's actually, well, it's not actually antiquated, because originally journalism as we think of it was super biased. Yellow journalism, muckraking, all of this, like, reporters from different papers, like, going after each other all the time.
Are you besmirching the noble name of William Randolph Hearst?
Yeah, I am indeed, very much.
Okay.
I didn't want to say his name, but since you brought it up. So which is not to say that, like, really good daily reporters, like, have to and should write about elected officials who believe crazy things. Like, that it is on, like, it's a moral imperative to report that, like, Congressman Lamar Smith, chair of the House Science Committee, doesn't think that climate change is real. But I think you can observe that and still point out that, like, that's not like a legitimate point of view to have in the world.
Do you feel like that the fact that you're transparent about that works in the favor of the work you do when it comes to folks' reception of it, or do you feel like it causes people to maybe close their ears to some of it because they know where you're coming from beforehand?
I undoubtedly believe that it causes people to not want to listen to me beforehand. I don't care what those people think.
Okay.
There are people great journalists, who do want to engage with people who have wildly different views and who maybe have, really, like, aberrant views, and who, just really, like, are on the other side of that spectrum. And I respect that kind of writing. Rhetorically, it's really difficult to do. I'm past that. Like, I'm past the point where I'm, like, gonna debate my humanity with somebody who doesn't believe my lived experience. Okay. Like, I just rather yell and cuss on the internet.
I appreciate your transparency about that. This is it's interesting. We've had guests express their political perspectives before, but this isn't a political show. It's very much a storytelling show about the things that kind of we all have in common. One of the hooks of us all having things in common is that we all have very distinct and often fundamental beliefs that define, in your case, your career, the trajectory of your life. We haven't gotten into the story yet, but I think it's going to have something to do with this. There's a lot of ideas in the world. I really like the fact that we can have folks here just walk in and say, here's what I think and here's why, and I'm really comfortable with that. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate you
sure.
saying that. So, advocacy journalism.
Yes.
And that's what you do. Who do you do it for?
All kind of places.
Okay.
So most recently, I was the digital editor at a magazine called the Texas Observer. I would not actually have called the work that I did for the Observer advocacy journalism. It's much more traditional progressive reporting, although with a left-ish bent. Anyway, the Texas Observer is fantastic. It's a nonprofit, 61-year-old news magazine based in Austin, covers the whole state. It's the only progressive magazine in Texas. Fucking donate to the Texas Observer, guys, everybody. And Whiskey also thinks that you should do that. So I was the digital editor there most recently before we moved here to California. And so now I write for a couple different places. The last couple of months, I've written for RollingStone.com, for Cosmo Online. I did write a lot previously for Rewire, which used to be called RH Reality Check, which is the worst name for a publication of all time, because you cannot call somebody up on the phone and say, hi, I'm Andrea Grimes, senior political reporter with RH Reality Check, and I ask you a few questions about abortion today, thank you, without them basically wanting to hang up on you.
That must be difficult.
So Rewire is what they're now called. I write for them.
Okay.
And I'm launching a new podcast project. I ran a podcast for the Texas Observer, and now I'm doing my own independent podcast called Traitor Radio, Traitor. Traitor.
Are you a traitor?
I am a traitor.
Okay, now there are cats all over this table at this point.
Cats.
There are cats everywhere. There are off-camera cats. There are on-camera cats. We have a cat thing going on. There's a dog around here somewhere. I'm waiting for him to jump up the table.
I put her in the crate because she's too wacky. Yeah.
So, Traitor Radio.
Yeah.
Why are you a traitor?
I'm not a traitor. And in fact, it's a little bit of a cheeky name because really it's about being a patriot.
Oh. What do those two things have in common?
Indeed. So Trader Radio is a social justice 101 storytelling podcast for, your nice mom and dad, your like grandma who's never been politically active, your boss who's thinking about how can she, make her workplace better. Like it's very much like basically it's like, so you're mad about Trump. Mm-hmm. Here's what to do now. Okay. And so there's lots of those kinds of things going on right now, which is awesome, right? Mm-hmm. Like the 5 Calls app, like there's a million different scripts going around for like what to say to your member of Congress. People tend to be, running into the street and yelling with funny signs now. It's a whole thing. Okay. But what Trader Radio does, the intervention that I hope it will do, is provide what I think of as the means and motivation for people to start making political change in their daily lives. Huh. So that is, like, I think it's difficult for people to understand, for example, the challenges that trans women face when they are attacked, sometimes literally, for going into a bathroom. Mm-hmm. And they don't maybe understand why this bathroom stuff they've heard on the news is a big deal. They're just not with it. They think they've never met a transgender person, although undoubtedly they have, right? So the podcast, the idea is we're going to do 10 minutes of storytelling, first person, just straight up it happened to me style storytelling, mm-hmm. with 10 minutes at the end of you're pissed, here's what to do now.
Storytelling, political advocacy, yeah. and calls to action. Okay, thank you.
Totally.
I appreciate you sharing that. We'll go back at the end of the episode, and you can learn more about where you can find out mm-hmm. about Trader Radio if you want to do that. So, Indeed. And Andrea, I think it's time to switch gears a little, cats mm-hmm. and all. Okay. And ask you the question that I like to start every interview with until I decide to change it. Tell me about somebody you're thankful for.
I am thankful for a Texas state representative, Republican state representative named Dan Flynn.
Dan Flynn?
Yes.
State representative, not the U.S. House of Representatives, but rather the Texas State House.
He goes to the big pink building in Austin and makes bad decisions.
You have a big pink building in Austin? Mm-hmm. Please elaborate.
I'm going to fuck this up because I always get it wrong and then I have to go look it up. It's either limestone or granite, and it's pink. I mean, It's pink. It's a pink capital.
Texas State Capitol was pink.
It's
I
pink.
had no idea.
Yeah, and it's taller. And all Texans will tell you this. They if you're born in Texas, they send you out of the hospital with a birth certificate and this fact, and it is that the Texas Capitol is taller than the U.S. Capitol.
Okay, well there we are. Yeah. I mean, God bless Texas. I like Texas. Okay, you love Texas,
yes,
right?
I do.
That's
one
of your things.
Yes.
You're crazy about Texas. You love it there. Texas is a fantastic place. I heard a story years ago. Somebody said, there was an Alaskan and a Texan sitting and talking, and an Alaskan said that there was enough gold in Alaska to build a wall 3 feet tall out of solid gold all the way around Texas. And the Texan said, well, fine, you build it and I'll buy it. And, it's thank you for laughing at my dad joke.
It's a dad joke.
My dad literally told me that joke. Nice. Thank you for laughing at my stupid dad joke. So this representative, Texas has a bicameral legislature?
Yes. Okay. We have a House and a Senate.
Okay. And he's a House representative in Texas. His name again?
Dan Flynn.
And where did you meet Mr. Flynn first?
So it was 2011, and I had just lost my job at the newspaper, which is a whole other nightmare story. But I had found myself suddenly, with $600 1 month of COBRA and no health insurance beyond that, trying to get on unemployment. So I had just stopped working at the newspaper, and which I thought really kind of freed me up for an opportunity to do political advocacy work, which I had been thinking about doing in life. I'd run a feminist blog for a while. I was into women's issues, and I was like, now is the time. So I got on a bus with a bunch of other people from Dallas with Planned Parenthood. They're state lobby day, right? Mm-hmm. So we go down to the Capitol, and this was right at the beginning of the time that Texas was starting to make noises about defunding Planned Parenthood.
About what year was this?
2011.
2011.
So it was also at the same time, Texas was considering and would eventually successfully pass the mandatory pre-abortion ultrasound. So it was like all of this like super like anti-abortion, anti-repro care was like really starting to ramp up.
Okay.
I mean, Texas had like tried some of it before and succeeded, but this was really like a moment where the fight was like gonna happen, right?
Okay.
So I get on the bus, go down to Austin, and I had just like months before discovered and been treated for like 9,000 high-risk strains of HPV, which is the virus that causes cervical cancer, right?
Oh my! How did you discover that?
Pap smear.
Okay.
Went to my doctor, got a pap smear, like I'm supposed to, right?
This is when you still had
That's
your
when I still
insurance
had health
coverage.
insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it turned out to be a whole thing. I had to have like an inpatient surgical procedure. It was a whole hassle. I couldn't fuck my husband for a month. Like it was just like, you know, it was rough times. Like we watched all of The Wire twice during that month. Because what else can you do, right? So I was just fresh off this like pretty traumatic, you know, medical experience. And losing my job and realizing that had that happened to me 4 months earlier, I would have just been entirely fucked, right? Like,
what would your recourse have been?
Well, I would have gone to a place like Planned Parenthood, right? And gotten my, you know, $60 sliding scale pap smear, and then been referred out to a doctor who specializes in reproductive care. And, you know, so it would have been a little bit of a hassle, but like I could have done it, right? I didn't have to do it, which was great.
Because you had the insurance.
Because I had the insurance, but...
So you've got this fresh in your mind. You've just lost your job. You're thinking about advocacy journalism. You see something happening in your state around this issue that's becoming more immediate in the news. So you get on a bus from Dallas to the State House in Austin. Not a short trip.
Oh, well, it's like 3 hours, 3.5 hours. We left at like 3 a.m. So it was pretty, well, that's not true. Nothing happens quickly on I-35, but it was as fast a drive.
Well, I honestly think that outside of New York City, D.C., L.A., San Francisco, and Texas, 3 hours is a long time in a car.
Is that how other people think about it?
Outside of traffic jams and huge areas, it's
okay.
Chicago. I've left your city out. Atlanta, I'm so sorry. But
you're just gonna get nothing but emails from people that
folks
so
that have
mad.
to deal with crappy traffic. Yeah, my apologies, guys, for the assumptions. But outside of snarls and big states, 3 hours is a long time in the car for a lot of folks.
Okay, all right, sure, all right. True. Yes. Okay. I will acknowledge
and double
that.
on a bus.
Yes. Right. I get super barfy on buses too. It's not my favorite.
That's
not
my wife. My wife has terrible motion sickness.
I can't go in cars that I'm not driving. Basically, like it's bad. So I'm on the bus. Go down to the Capitol. There's like fairly, a couple dozen of us, I would say, maybe more, maybe 3 dozen. Anyway, so we all were like assigned teams of 3 or 4 women mostly, although there's some guys there. And we're like assigned lawmakers to go talk to. So they're like 100 and
you're volunteers. You are not the famous paid protesters.
Yeah, no, I didn't make any money off.
Okay.
This was before I signed the contract with Soros.
Okay.
So there's like 150 state reps, I want to say. And so we were kind of all divided up among them. And I had told Planned Parenthood my story in the first place, because you like fill out a little form, why you want to come to this shit, blah, 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 blah. And I told the thing. So I was like the designated storyteller for our group, because I had this great, like, obvious example of a person who had a need for care, right? So, we go see some Democrats, and they're like, yes, thank you, you're lovely, we're so sorry, we're working on this dumb bullshit, it's not our fault, we're doing our best. And then we go to Dan Flynn's office, and Dan Flynn, we have a phrase in Texas called rode hard and put up with. I think probably North Carolina
we have that phrase as well.
Has something similar.
Yeah, I've heard it.
So Dan's lived his life, seen a lot, and we're sitting in his office. He's got this the giant cherry wood desk and probably gold cowboy boot awards behind him from the Van County Rodeo Association or whatever, right? and we're there to tell the story. So thank you for seeing me, Representative Flynn. I would like to tell you about the time that I nearly had cervical cancer, and I think that people should be able to go to Planned Parenthood or any other provider that they can afford, and that reproductive care should be affordable. And thank you very much for your time. And Flynn was like, interesting, you're wrong. And I was like,
was it that literal? Interesting, you're wrong? I mean, is that how it came
no,
up? Are you
was,
paraphrasing?
I am paraphrasing,
Okay.
but that was the gist of
okay.
the thing, was interesting, you're wrong.
Okay.
It was more like, you're wrong, honey. Mm-hmm. There was an implied honey on the end, or like sweetheart, maybe. Oh, it was foul. Anyway, and so he was like, well, I bet you didn't know you could have gotten a pap smear, and anybody can get a pap smear at like literally thousands of doctors in Texas for like free or almost nothing. And I was like, really?
Okay, intriguing.
I'm listening. And I was like, okay, like give me that list of healthcare providers, that are doing free or $10 pap smears, right?
Which sounds like a great service to me.
Lovely. I had no idea. So that's when I kind of that was the moment that I kind of switched on that advocacy journalist mode, because I was thinking I want those fucking documents. Mm-hmm. And I know you're lying about it, right? I was like, ooh, I think you're wrong. I think you're super wrong. I think you're lying about it. And I want those fucking documents, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And so he was like, my assistant or my chief of staff or whatever will get them to you.
Okay.
So
that was it. And so he said, here's something you can do. You're wrong.
Right?
This is available.
Sure.
We'll get you that information.
Exactly.
So far, sounds reasonable.
He did not get me that information until I think I had to nag his office 4 or 5 more times. I may have even...
So not the same day.
Right. He didn't have it on hand. Uh-huh. Right. So we get back on the bus, after taking our picture under the big picture of painting of Ann Richards, in the
you got your picture
Capitol,
taken? No, you
and
right? Representative Flynn, or you?
Oh,
okay.
Flynn did not do that. No, me and the rest of the lobby ladies, I suppose.
Okay. So you and the rest of the volunteers.
Right.
You get your picture taken. You go home. So you say goodbye. You go home. You start calling the office. You don't get the info.
Mm-hmm. So I may have actually filed a public information request, or either they only gave it to me after I threatened to file a public information request. I can't remember
which. Okay.
Anyway, so finally I get this list, and it's a list of, it's not a list of doctors.
Okay.
But it's not a list of doctors.
What is it?
So it was a document compiled by either the Texas Alliance for Life or the Texas Right to Life, which are the two major anti-abortion lobby groups in Texas.
Okay, so they're advocacy groups.
Yeah, right. It's this list. It's like they went to Medicaid.gov or something, and just were here are doctors in Texas that I guess take Medicaid, which means they must take all Medicaid, which means they must do PAP. I don't know. It was a list of doctors in Texas.
Okay, so you got the list, and you're looking at this. What made you think that this was not legit?
So, a couple of things. Some of the outfits on the list were I recognized as being crisis pregnancy centers, which are the fake, pretend to be abortion providers that actually just lie to people and tell them that they're too far along in their pregnancy to get an abortion, or abortion causes breast cancer, or it's super Jesus-y. It's weird. It's a whole thing.
Can you expound on that? I'd like to know, if just for folks listening that aren't familiar with what you're talking about. These are in Texas. These are nationwide.
They're international now. Actually, the anti-abortion movement in the U.S. has started exporting some of its worst ideas to the United Kingdom in recent years. So they have them there as well. So anyway, the idea is there'll be a Planned Parenthood on the corner, whatever, of Oak and Main Street or whatever it is. On the opposite corner of Oak and Main, there will be another building that has doctory signage maybe like something about like free ultrasounds inside or whatever, right? So people think they're going to the Planned Parenthood or, the whole women's health clinic or whatever, like a legitimate medical operation. And they're like at this intersection and they're like, oh, well, I see that one. That must be the doctor that I'm going to. So you go in there, they'll have a sign outside. Are you pregnant? Are you scared? Abortion referrals, da-da-da-da. You go in, they there'll be like one really nice old white lady at the front counter and she'll be like, hello, honey. Thank you for coming in. Please sign in. You sign in. They'll take you back for like have you do like a urine pregnancy test, right? And while they say they're waiting on the results of the pregnancy test, they sit you there with a load of brochures about abortion causes breast cancer. Women who get abortions are, prone to like psychotic breaks. That,
like, have you seen materials like this?
Oh, yeah, yes, absolutely. And in Texas, these places are state funded. That's not true all over the place, but Texas gives these places millions and millions of dollars to operate. Anyway, so they feed you all of this bullshit, basically, about abortion. And then they come back and say, like, sometimes they give out those little fetus dolls. Like, I don't, like, if you, like, have ever, like, seen an anti-abortion, they give you these, like, little things. Anyway, so they'll, like, give you one of those. Like, the terminology they use is very, like, mother, baby. It's not woman, fetus, embryo, zygote, whatever, right? Anyway, so they feed you all the bullshit, basically, and try to shame people out of getting abortions.
So it's a very different lens of political advocacy.
Yes, indeed. And it's a political operation. I mean, it's a political / religious operation.
Are these places you can get pap smears?
No.
Okay, so
no,
they're
indeed.
on the list, but they're not places.
No.
And so when you looked at that list, you saw some of these crisis.
So I saw some of those, but then I saw places like, Homeless Services of Dallas.
Okay.
Or, things like that where it's like, I know that like there are places for low income or, people in housing crisis to go get medical care and that undoubtedly that is paid for by the state, not as much as it should be, but like that exists, right? But I'm thinking like, I can't get a pap smear at the Homeless Services of Dallas clinic.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just like looking at this list.
Is it possible? Did you find out? I mean, is it something that if you call, will they let you do that?
So I called.
Okay.
And this is actually, it's a shtick I did a couple of times in my reporting because it was something that lawmakers kept saying and doing over and over again in the course of this battle over Planned Parenthood funding in Texas. Like, lawmakers would constantly be saying, like, there are thousands of providers that do free pap smears. I have a list, and it's the same fucking list every time, right? So this was the first time I, like, engaged in this little kind of act of advocacy journalism, which is just call the entire list, say, hi, when can I come in for a pap smear? You
actually called down the list.
Yeah, I called the whole list.
How many numbers was that?
I mean, it was a lot, yeah. And, some people would be like, what? Like, what did you, honey? Like, what did you know? And then and every once in a while, like, I would hit upon one that did provide reproductive care.
Okay.
A lot of what are called federally qualified health centers, which are federally funded qualified health centers that serve low-income people for all kind of things. I mean, like diabetes care, cancer care, reproductive health care, prenatal screenings, like pediatrics. I mean, there's a bajillion of them, right?
Yeah.
There are a legitimately large amount of these places, right? There should be more of them, and they should be better funded.
What percentage were they of the list?
God, at this point, it would be difficult for me to remember in that particular list. I can remember later on the next time I reported on this for Rewire / RH Reality Check. I think it was like out of like 100 I think I called like 127 places and maybe like 15 or 20.
So, Representative Flynn gave
so
you this list.
his
Well,
office,
after being prompted, he gave you the list.
Right. So he gave me this list, and I was like, this is bullshit. Like, this is not, and like some place, especially if the FQHCs, like, even if they do pap smears, they're talking about like maybe it would be 2, 3, 4 months out before you could get an appointment, right? Yeah. So it's just not like a sustainable solution to, if you're gonna kick 150,000 people out of being able to see their medical provider at Planned Parenthood. Like, there's no way 10 FQHCs are going to pick up the gap there. Like, they're not going to fill in that gap. And in fact, Texas has borne out, since it did defund Planned Parenthood, that is the case.
So I'm curious, did you ever, you have this gentleman you spent, how long did you talk to Mr. Flynn that day?
Oh, like 10 minutes max, maybe.
Have you guys ever spoken since?
I did try to call his office for a comment. Like, of course I did. I don't think he directly ever spoke with me. I think I probably got a statement from his chief of staff.
So you had a 10-minute meeting with a man who told you something that didn't sound right when you heard it. You followed it up and found out it wasn't. And yet, here on this cast, which is about the people we're most thankful for, why you chose Representative Flynn as the person you're thankful for?
Because if he had not patronized me, been so patronizing toward me, been so dismissive of me, and so untruthful to my face, I don't think I would have pursued the career that I have today. I don't think that I would have realized how much disdain and hate that a lot of these elected representatives have for women and for our lived experiences as women.
Do you feel like he hates women?
I think there are elements of misogyny to Representative Flynn. I will say that. I just felt like he thought that I was stupid and silly and young, and that nobody would believe me if I contradicted him, and that my experience didn't matter. And
so you got the list.
So I proved him wrong, right?
How would you have felt like if you'd gotten the list and it had turned out to be true? I wonder what this story would be like today. Like if
it would be, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, like, it would have been a relief. Like, that would have been great. Like, right. I wasn't there to, like, I don't want things to be bad so that they can be bad for me and for anybody else, right? Like, I would have been like, sweet, thank you very much. Like, that is lovely. I am so glad that we have a robust social safety net here in ye old state of Texas to take care of hundreds of thousands of people who need free pap smears,
but
right?
That's not what happened.
That is not what happened. So he
changed your life.
Yeah, he did. And he, I am not actually, and I think that this is maybe unusual in journalism, maybe not, I don't know. I am pretty intimidated by authority figures, and my parents taught me to be super respectful and, like, respect the police and respect your teachers and your parents, obviously. So I'm not really inclined naturally to be like a sassy tell-off type of person. Like, I want things to be orderly and for people to tell the truth and for everybody to get along, right? So I think that was also one of those moments where it was like something that intellectually, like, I could have suspected, right, that, like, politicians lie, obviously, was literally staring me in the face, and I was like, I can't not do something about this.
Until you did something.
So I did something.
And you told the story afterward.
I did, yeah. So I ended up writing about it for Rewire. And again, like I said, when they trotted out that list, again, multiple times, the state of Texas actually built an online search version of these medical providers that were supposed to be substitutes for Planned Parenthood. And it was the Department of State Health Services did it, and it was such a nightmare, and it was wrong all the time. And sometimes it still listed Planned Parenthood clinics, even though they'd already booted Planned Parenthood from receiving public funding. Like, it was just like a totally silly shit show. And it was like this thing that, like, not just me, like many, many journalists in Texas. I mean, I think that I kind of started this like questioning process of the list of providers, but lots and lots of people picked it up after, like, it was a thing, right? But like, even like other state lawmakers couldn't get a hold of the magical list of low-income pap smear providers. Like, Representative Donna Howard, a Democrat, she's a nurse in Austin, like, had to file a bill that was like, can I please have the list of magical low-income healthcare providers that are going to take over for Planned Parenthood? Like, it never existed. It was never a thing that it existed. It was a complete lie that the right wing in Texas made up. And I mean, ultimately, like, they were able to get away with it. Texas defunded Planned Parenthood. And they're still trying to defund Planned Parenthood. They find new and magical ways of defunding them when they've already defunded them. Kicking them out of like breast and cervical cancer programs, and kicking them out of federal Medicaid. Like, how can the state of Texas kick like out of federal Medicaid? I don't know. They fucking find a way. It's a nightmare, man.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Telling the story 6 years later.
Yeah.
What's it like for you? You're telling this. So you're telling about a time that you hunted down you hunted down a story. You told it, and it turned out that it didn't have the effect you'd hoped it would. Or am I assuming too much?
Oh, I didn't think that there was any way that I was going to prevent the state of Texas from defunding Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, I just assumed too much there. Okay.
Yeah.
So
No.
let me ask you this. Here's a better way to put it. I think this is the question I want to ask. What does it mean for you as an advocacy journalist to want to change someone's mind? What ultimately, what's the end game? What are you trying to accomplish?
I think I'm not trying to change people's minds. I'm trying to ensure that the record reflects reality.
Ah, okay.
I don't think that men like Dan Flynn or Donald Trump should be able to say things that are untrue or true without those things being vetted and verified. I think that doing that is the highest and most admirable calling of journalists. And I think that ensuring that to the extent that it's possible, ensuring that facts and accuracy, medical science, that those things are put up against the rank tomfoolery that comes out of some of these people's mouths. And I don't think that they should be able to, I don't think anybody should be able to get away with lying. I especially think that people who, purport to work for their constituents should be able to lie. And in a lot of ways, the lying has become endemic and acceptable. Like it's like not even wacky anymore, right? That somebody would say, that climate change is up for debate, right? Like it's a thing we hear all the time. Like it is, but it's wrong.
There are listeners on the show right now who have a very different perspective on that.
You guys are wrong about that. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend your listeners. I do, actually.
I mean, offense can be powerful. Occasionally, discovering we change.
Yes,
we
indeed we do.
And we change in ways we never expected to. Very few of us go through life trying to be wrong.
Yes.
Or trying not to adapt. Some do, but I think about the times that I wonder right now. I've told the story before. This is the goofiest thing. I was filling out a CAPTCHA the other day, and it has a little checkbox that says, I'm not a robot, right? I checked it. I wonder if 50 years from now, if AI develops to the point that AIs are citizens, if that's going to be like this horribly backward
like super
meme
offensive thing.
that they point back to, like, think about how they looked at the world. You know, like, what's wrong? I'm not a robot. You know, like, and we're just like, it's this thing we don't even think about.
So
obviously, that's a very silly example, but I think about my parents' and grandparents' generations and the things that we look at now and go, obviously, how did they not see that? Now, the same things are happening.
Yeah.
You know, there are things that 20 years from now, we're going to look back and go, what were we thinking?
What have you changed your mind on?
Oh, well, let's see. So I don't talk too much on here about my personal perspectives, but since you asked, when I was a teenager, I was standing out on the side of the road holding one of the big signs reminding people that life was the right way to choose.
Honey, you and me both.
And yeah, and while I retain many of my theological convictions, they have led me to a different political perspective as time has passed. So that's one thing that's changed tremendously. I now support the rights you're talking about, and at that time I wouldn't have. Yeah. That changed. Can
I tell you, I am the founder and president of the Mansfield High School Young Republicans Club.
So what happened?
I went to college. I left my town full of nice people who had sort of emotionally and religiously terrified me into compliance, and realized that the world was bigger than I thought it was before. And yeah. So yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like we go to all these, like, I was super into the, like, Christian punk and metal scene when I was in high school, which is very big in Dallas, Fort Worth. Like, very big.
Yeah, I was in Central Florida where it was
yes. Likewise. Yeah. So, like, I remember, like, passing out, like, you know, the flyers with the, like, really graphic fetus pictures on them. And, like, I used to write this, like, I also super wanted to be a Christian pop star, and would write these, like, fraught songs on my guitar about, like, imagining what it would be like to be an aborted baby, and, like, all, like, it was so, like,
it was sincere.
It was entirely sincere. Like I don't, like, have to do almost any kind of, like, emotional retrospecting to, like, get myself back into the mindset that, like, the way that felt. Like, the emotional memory is really strong for me. And I feel now as strong as I did then, right, in the entirely opposite direction. I, of course, think that I have a better informed perspective now. But, like, I super remember that emotional memory. And I know that people can change. And so that's, I mean, when you initially asked me the question, I said that I wasn't really interested in changing minds. I'm not interested in changing minds. And I don't think that facts are a compelling way to change minds.
What do you think are?
I think stories are. And that's why I like stories and storytelling podcasts, like Pockets Full of Soup.
Oh, you're very good. No, another place I changed was my perspective on homosexuality. Growing up was much more rooted in probably what would be considered a conservative American Christian tradition. And then I lived with a gay roommate in college for 4 years. And let me tell you what, like, what you see and what you experience directly has a profound effect. In my case, and this is going to sound odd maybe to you, my theological convictions amplified that experience. I come from what's called an Anabaptist tradition, a Wesleyan idea that what we experience informs us as much as something like scripture or dogma or doctrine. And, you know, again, not everybody's going to share this idea. But for me, I saw more of the light of God in that person as time passed than I'd seen a lot of places, and it changed how I thought about the world.
I was raised Methodist, so I'm familiar with that Wesleyan
kind of
perspective.
Wesleyan Arminian perspective, yeah. And it affected that. But again, we all come out different places, and we keep changing. That's the other bit. God knows what you and I are going to do in a decade.
I was a shitbag, like, not 6 months ago, I can tell you. Like, in general, like, I always think, like, Well, 6 months is I probably was okay 6 months ago. But like I go back and like I read the stuff that I wrote, when I was 25. And at 25, I thought I had the whole goddamn thing figured out, and nobody was more feminist than me, and I was the smartest, sassiest person. And I'm just like, I go back and read some of that shit, and I'm like, ooh, can we not? Yeah. Oh no! So like I can't
don't unless you're F. Scott Fitzgerald. Don't go back and read things you wrote when you were young. Don't do it.
But that's so exciting though to think where do we get to be in like 10, like assuming that the whole planet is in nukes to oblivion, right? Like where will we be, and like what will we know, and who will we know, going down the road, right?
And what mistakes will we make on the way? I mean, that's the other part. I have my convictions, but they're convictions. I mean, they're beliefs. They are informed by facts. They are informed by experience, but they may very well be terribly fraught with error.
Yeah.
And in a way, sometimes I kind of hope they are, because that means I get to keep learning.
Yeah. I'm going to start writing really angry letters to every like CAPTCHA site that I see. And like, I'm just going to be like, do not insult the robots.
Do not insult the robots. Yeah, I realize I picked the worst possible example. It was like the most ridiculous jump in logic, because that's not a situation that exists in the moment. But you get the idea, the things that we look at and go, there are words that were, around me at least, absolutely things you said without a thought that now seem reprehensible to me. There are ideas that I thought were reprehensible that have become great comforts to me. And that's, wow, this is fun. I'm kind of leading this all off. You actually answered my last question for this segment already, which is I was going to ask you about how searches for learning have changed you, but you kind of jumped into that with the so we're going to skip ahead.
Yeah.
We're going to do that hard left turn. It happens in the middle of the show, but first we got to thank our Patreon producers, because they keep the lights on, literally those lights over there.
Thanks, Patreon producers.
Yeah, Nick Rie, Robert Nieder, these guys make this show happen, along with just over 1,000 wonderful people on Patreon that for some reason decide to send us money because they're nice and wonderful and delightful. Thank you. Please continue to do so. I cannot tell you how much it matters. I really appreciate it. If you want to tell your stories of thankfulness or things that changed in your life, beliefs that changed, whatever way they changed, by the way, again, I'm not a political advocacy show, and I'm very interested in the different ideas you have. So throw them out. Let me know about ways that your beliefs changed as time passed at mail@pocketsfullofsoup.com.
Woo!
And you do that. Thank you so much, Andrea. You are a delight.
This has been lovely. Yeah, thanks for coming over.
But now, the hard left pivot to instant noodles, which is the lightning round of goofy questions.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Lay it on me.
What is best sandwich?
Ooh, muffaletta.
Muffaletta?
Yeah.
You're our first muffaletta. Oh, that's delightful.
I love a good muffaletta. Oh, it's delicious.
They are delicious. If you travel through time and meet any one person, who would it be?
Ooh. I want to meet Queen Elizabeth I.
The first?
Yeah, because I think I probably could meet Queen Elizabeth II if I really tried. Like,
okay.
There's probably an amount of money I could spend to make that happen.
Yeah, do you have that much money?
I do not.
So if you do, please become a Patreon supporter. No, okay. So Queen Elizabeth I. All right. So why Elizabeth?
I am a bit of a medieval ages / Renaissance nerd in my free time, and I have always been fascinated by the gender and like nationalist politics of England between the years 1300 and 1700.
Okay.
And she was a notable part of that, and so I would like to ask her about it. I also want to hear how she fucking talked. I'm desperate to hear how they talked in Elizabethan
You want to hear it?
England. Yes, yeah.
Elizabethan England is a hard phrase to say.
Elizabeth, especially after a glass of delicious Bordeaux.
Can you imagine if Robert England had named his daughter Elizabeth, and then every time she'd be Elizabeth in England?
Elizabeth in England.
Oh, that'd be fun. All right. So, wow. And Freddie Krueger's daughter, both. That'd be amazing. All right. What's your favorite word?
Pamplemousse.
I don't know this word.
It's the French word for grapefruit.
That's a delightful word. Did you learn it?
in French class.
Oh, okay. Can you say it one more time?
Pamplemousse.
Oh, I love that. It makes me so happy. What a wonderful favorite word.
Yeah, it's great.
What's the word? What's the first word you think of when you hear the sound of your own voice? You don't like your voice?
It's that. Second to the amount of money I would have to pay to meet Queen Elizabeth II would be the amount of money I would pay to never have to transcribe another fucking interview and listen to myself talk. I hate it. Like, I can't. It's.
I have no patience for transcription in any form, much less transcription of myself. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. Yeah. I don't like doing it either. What's the most terrifying creature in the natural world?
Bees.
Bees. Oh, I'm so scared of bees.
I hate them. I hate them so bad.
Okay, I love bees.
Intellectually,
but I'm terrified of them.
I love what they do. I think they do great work. I think they're really valuable contributors, but I want to not ever be around them for any reason.
What was your worst sting?
I've never been stung.
Oh my goodness. You've never been stung and you're terrified of them. You're so wise. You're so very wise.
I have no chill around them, like none. Like I will straight up, like I will leave all of my money and all of my belongings and all of my beer and I like at any like location and just abandon ship if bees.
My wife has mocked me, doubled over laughing as I run off screaming, being chased by bees.
Have you been stung?
Oh yes, many times.
Okay.
When I was 5, I sat on a subterranean hornet's nest and they came and said hello. Really, ever since then, it's kind of been.
My palms are literally sweating.
Yeah, it was. They stung me in the butt a whole lot, and my butt swelled up, and I couldn't sit down for like 2 days. And I had to lay on my belly the whole time.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous. But that's fun. What's your favorite flavor ice cream?
Oh, cookies and cream. Bluebell cookies and cream.
Oh, that's good. I like that one a lot. Yeah. What's the best song written in the last 100 years?
Fuck.
Yeah, what's the best song?
Formation. Beyonce.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your first Formation. Why Formation?
Because it is not only a jamming fucking song, it is perfectly encapsulating of this political moment, and Beyonce is the best person on the planet. So it has that also added benefit. Yes.
A question for you regarding this one specifically for you. I occasionally throw these in. Who is your favorite advocacy journalist?
Ooh. Oh, God. Ooh, there's a whole bunch of them, though. Mm-hmm. Like Parker Malloy is great. Sarah Jaffe is great. Sidette at Black Amazon on Twitter is fucking brilliant. Mickey Kendall. I'm not sure all of them would consider themselves advocacy journalists, but they are like brilliant writers about issues and things. Historically, like Molly Ivins is the greatest political writer who ever lived. So rest in peace, Molly, but she's like also like the reason like I do journalism. Oh golly, I'm gonna leave out so many people, and I feel so
again. That's why it's favorite. It's all right. What's a book?
Oh, Jessica Luther is another one. She writes about sports. She has a great book, Unsportsmanlike Conduct, about the really like problem of sexual assault in college sports. And oh fuck. I'm gonna have to like email you like a million. Right. We can just like really run like a chyron at the bottom of like just all of the people. Yeah.
What's a book that changed your mind?
The book that changed my mind.
A book.
I know, but I'm like looking. I'm like trying to see my bookshelf.
Are you just trying to choose between thousands of children here?
A little bit. Yeah. Okay. The book that changed my mind is the fucking America's Test Kitchen Best Recipes, because it revolutionized the way I roast chicken.
Who is this by?
It's the Cooks Illustrated America's Best Recipes. It's like there's 2 volumes. There may be more now. But they're like, you know America's Test Kitchen. They do all the elaborate, testing recipes 9,000 times.
And they changed the way that you do chicken.
Yeah.
That's delightful.
Yeah.
Last one, cake or pie?
Oh, well, like neither.
Wow.
I mean, I'm inclined to say cake
You
because
just don't like things that come in slices?
no, I like slices of cheese very much.
Slices of cheese. What about slices of pizza?
Slices of pizza are fine. I'm not big into sweets, so like I would like a slice of a Cool Ranch Dorito would be fine.
So that's your slice?
Yeah.
Right,
yes.
So is that closer to cake or pie, do you think? It's baked, so is it cake? Well, pie's baked too, though.
I think I don't know.
It's a Dorito.
Yeah, it's a Dorito.
Right.
I choose Doritos.
It's a Dorito.
Yeah.
Cool Ranch Doritos are really, really good.
So good.
I love that answer. And I always ask this, and I hope this, sometimes I worry this sounds narcissistic, but is there a question you have for me?
If you weren't so charming, like that. That would sound amazingly narcissistic.
Well, it is kind of narcissistic.
But you say it in such an adorable way.
Well, you can get away for a lot in life being pudgy and fuzzy and.
But you said it like what the doctor says at the end of the appointment. Like after she's told you, that you've got a weird mole on your back. She's like, "And do you have any questions for me?"
Delightful. You know what? I think we should just leave that one at that.
Okay.
That's
all
fun.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
It has been an absolute pleasure, Andrea. Thank you for coming on here. But do you prefer Andrea?
Andrea.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. It's been an absolute pleasure, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And if folks want to check out your advocacy journalism and the new project you're launching.
Yes. Trader Radio, TRAITOR radio.com. I realize now that RLE is a silly, everybody thinks it's TRADER, but it's not. Anyway, traderradio.com, or you find me on Twitter, yelling and drinking, usually at Andrea Grimes, ANDREAGRIMES.
Right, at Andrea Grimes or Trader Radio. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You sharing your perspectives, guys. Thank you for watching, listening, at all, etc. Again, send your stories of thankfulness to mail@pocketsfulofsoup.com. We appreciate you listening and watching. See you next time.